Hello, everyone. Okay, I've been remiss on not having potluck on bluntness for a while because, not because I've been just checked out, it's just because being Asian and also my friends here will tell you, we don't stop. So it's been pretty busy. And so I wanted to welcome you all to the first potluck podcast at the Bluntness for 2024. We hope to do more of these. I would like to thank the Bluntness first for supporting this and helping produce it. I would also like to introduce and thank my guests, amazing women. Okay, you do not get a crop like women like this in any other industry. This is the most supportive industry in the world by women, unsupported by the government. We've been able to cobble this together. So I have seen what these women do, and I'm so honored to have them here. I have Christina Wong of Fruit and Flower, and Sian Seligman.
Sian.
God, I'm having a brain fart of Cone and a graduate of herbal medicine. So, to bring everyone together and what potluck is born out of Asian Americans of Cannabis Education, where I bring together people in the API cannabis industry. So that's very quick. Let's talk about you guys. Christina, tell us about Fruit and Flower.
Yes, so Fruit and Flower is a culinary cannabis media channel, and I cover everything from cannabis, food, drinks, and travel. So I like to use food and culinary as a bridge to help teach and explain how people can appreciate and choose their cannabis in the same way that they would choose food from the farmer's market or your produce, or when you go to the grocery store or Whole Foods, how to choose cannabis in a way that makes sense for your budget, for your lifestyle, for your needs. There's so much information and it can be really confusing. So Fruit and Flower is a way to do that. And then I also host something called Mogu Magu with our friend, Chef Wendy Zhang, who was on the first episode of this Potluck Bluntness podcast. And that is an AAPI culture, food, and cannabis, etc. collective.
Oh my gosh. And I've been to your events, Wendy Zeng, Zeng. And they're amazing. And also, I've just loved watching you are a OG of the cannabis industry for women, and so proud to have you here, and so proud to know you and your chickens, and to follow you, and everything else. Okay, Cyan.
You got it.
It took me a while to correctly write out Wendy Zhang's name too. For the longest time, it was Zheng. So yes, that part of my brain fart has something happened in there, but luckily I do not smell toast, so it's not a stroke. So, Cyan, this woman is amazing. Okay, first time she took me out was to the City Club, correct? Right?
Yep.
I got that right?
Yep.
It's the most posh meeting place for basically the alphas of industry on the West Coast. And this woman said, "I'm the chairwoman." I thought, "Oh my God." Right? And so she walked me through and everyone said, "Hey, hey." And I thought, oh, I'm with her. I'm with her. And it was amazing. And then from there, I have been just following what she's doing and amazed that she has time to do any of this. And so tell us a little bit about you besides what I said about you. You can add to that.
Well, thank you, first of all, for being here. And I'm honored to be in your podcast with Christina. I know her well as well. And I love everything that she does and everything that you do. So thank you for that. I just finished my program with American College of Healthcare Sciences, got my master's degree in herbal medicine. So I've definitely been doing a lot of teaching and a lot of medicine making with herbs, including cannabis and other plants. And so that's been exciting. I'm also an integrated cannabis specialist. I'm credentialed as that, as well as an integrated psilocybin specialist. And I've also been working with a psychology school. We know that psychedelics recently were decriminalized and made legal for use in certain instances in Oregon. And my school is actually located in Oregon. And so I recently joined the board of trustees at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, which graduates, thank you, which graduates the most clinical psychologists in the United States. And I'm now a trustee with them, helping them develop curriculum around psychology, mental health, and psychedelics and cannabis. And so, I'm just really very passionate about educating folks about plant wellness, about mycology, about how psychedelics can heal. And it's just been really important to me to make sure that I give back in some way. Additionally, I'm also the head of marketing for Koan, which is a cannabis company, as you mentioned, Ophelia. And we've been doing really great things in terms of just educating people on different ways to consume cannabis and ways that you may not think about, but also integrating lifestyle behavior. Like, when you go to a bar, our product is a cordial. And so it's very similar to drinking cocktails. And so we really want to bring and shepherd cannabis in a way that is approachable and also beneficial to a lot of people, to the most people.
Wow. Okay. When you walk into a restaurant or bar, people have like a Louis Vuitton bag or a Prada bag or a Gucci bag. I walk into a place of these two and I go, I'm with them. And everyone goes, ooh, because it's knowing these two. If you come into the industry, my best advice is find people that are like you, that understand your background, your history, your heritage, because you have a faster route of getting to know each other. And knowing these two women has enriched my life in so many ways, and I'm so proud to know them. So let's get into the meat of the podcast. Since it's very short, we are rapid fire, because if you ever heard us talk when we're eating, you basically have, where's the subtitles, right? Because no, what did they just say? Oh my God. Okay, so Christina, oh my gosh, you have created this amazing business, fruit and flower. Previously, I believe, it was baking with chickens,
It was,
right?
yes.
Yes, and of course you own chickens. Well, they own you basically,
Yeah.
not the
Yeah.
other way. Yeah,
In this
they,
case,
they own you. Yeah, it's like you're paying. They're. You should get them to pay your mortgage.
they don't lay enough eggs. They're supposed to lay eggs, but they don't pay rent. So
Who knows? So your creations are so beautiful, because you do incorporate, well, flower in the sense of cannabis also, but flower and flowers. Could you give us maybe just some anecdotes of what you have done for clients? What was the most fun thing that you've done?
absolutely. And Ophelia, I also wanted to mention too, knowing you has been huge for me. It's knowing you has opened up all these opportunities and all of these people. And to your point about meeting people who are most like you and understand your heritage and background. And I think that's also why ACE and Potluck Club and Mogu Magu work so well, because in our having conversations with each other and actually using cannabis and psychedelics, it opens up our minds and it opens up the conversations in our heart and all of these things that when I get together with other AAPIs in cannabis and we start getting high, we start talking, what happens and what flows from that is that we realize a lot of these intergenerational traumas and issues, and using psychedelics to help that has been absolutely instrumental. But through my work with Fruit and Flower, I write a newsletter called Fruit and Flower Unfurled. And so the unfurled part is sort of the result of what happens when using, from my own personal experimentation with cannabis and psychedelics and the thoughts that have come out of it. I've created these beautiful, stunning desserts. And I started doing baking with chickens because I wanted to teach people about eggs and chickens. And then that morphed into culinary cannabis because people wanted to know how to cook and bake with cannabis. And so now I write recipes that are very specifically written out and dosed as precisely as I can to 5 milligrams per serving. Because what I found when I was researching, how to cook and bake with cannabis at home, and when I was learning, it was very confusing. It was very frustrating. And the biggest concern that I had, that I think many other people might have, is how much flour do I use? How much do I dose? And our big fear of wanting to step in and try something new is, I don't want to have that bad experience with the edible and that bad experience with the pot brownie that got me messed up for days. And so teaching people how to do that is really important. And I think as psychedelics are becoming much more popular, as psychedelics are becoming decriminalized and legalized across states, just like cannabis, knowing your dose, knowing how much to take for therapeutic uses is incredibly important. And it's not like, we're going and doing huge bong hits, or it's the equivalent of like a beer bong. Like, sometimes you don't need that much. And so that's really where Fruit and Flower came from, was using these really beautiful food and recipes and desserts to teach and inspire people how to experiment and try these different things and substances, so that in their food, so that it's presented in this really beautiful way. It's not a pill, it's not a capsule. It's, how to choose your cannabis drinks. I just dropped an entire guide for this is Muffin, an entire guide for how to choose your cannabis drinks. And koan is absolutely included in that because it's also new. So that is Fruit and Flower Unfurled happens very much in part thanks to you, Ophelia, and introducing me to this beautiful community.
Well, on that note, talking about dosing, let's go to the queen of herbal medicine, Sian here, and talk maybe because you are not only an entrepreneur, you're basically, everything about business, which I do not know, but yet you are also this scientist. This you got your master's in herbal. Well, let's talk about herbal medicine. So, talking about dosing, but also what was your reason to get this like another degree, because you're already so smart. I mean, you're smarter, but smart.
I appreciate you saying that. I think you both are absolutely inspirations to me. Just in meeting the people in cannabis, first and foremost, especially the community, Ophelia, that you've built of AAPI women in particular. Our community is so smart and so inspirational. And I think that drives me to be better and give back and to support my community as well. The reason I wanted to get my master's degree is because I joined a cannabis company. I have been a brand marketing strategist for most of my career, which had nothing to do with cannabis. But like all my hobbies, I take them very seriously, like a good Asian girl. So got a master's degree in herbal medicine. But I think it goes with what's happening in our culture right now. Going back to embracing who we are, embracing our heritage, learning more about TCM as well. TCM has been around for 2,500 years. We owe so much, such a debt of gratitude to TCM. And so, it's interesting because we focus so much on homeostasis and how terpenes and cannabinoids and herbs and all these things bring us to homeostasis. But yin and yang is like the ultimate diagram, right? And it tells you exactly what that means. It means balance, and we're always seeking that. And so for me, I wanted to be able to speak more intelligently about plants and what they do in your body. I wanted to understand it more so that I knew what was going on, because to be an educator, you really need to know what's happening inside and out in order to help other people learn and grow. And this was a way that I could do that and give back and really be speaking from a place of knowledge.
That's actually really good. You brought up about TCM. Our medicine cabinet for 2,500 years had all these plants and mushrooms and animals, reptiles, fish, everything. Basically,
May I interrupt
everything
and
from
ask, what is TCM, so we can define it for our viewers?
Yes, thank you. TCM is traditional Chinese medicine.
Right. It's not the Turner Channel. So
you're not going to see old movies.
So our medicine cabinet in the last 50 years has been stripped because of politics, right? It's been stripped of the use of certain kinds of mushrooms, but also cannabis and hemp. And now the world is embracing that again. How do we educate our own AAPIs, Sian, that have been sort of fed this propaganda that it also it's been bad. And this is my cat Meowser. So
I don't have a cat, so I'm not going to have a visit from a cat. I might have a dog visit. Yeah, I think, it makes for a really good transitionary or bridge because our parents understand that. The older generations understand herbs and also healing through food. I think that's one thing that as AAPI, as an AAPI community, we understand really well. Food is not only a social platform, but it's also how we heal ourselves, right? And that's a big component to traditional Chinese medicine. And I think using that is really a great bridge to discuss that with older generations and sort of gaining some understanding and acceptance of things like cannabis or things that are a little more scary, like psychedelics. I know for my own discussions with my mom, it was really about talking about how, she's a landscape architect. She knows everything about plants as well. And I think it was obviously very scary for her because as Asians, we were very much rules followers, I think. And so, breaking the law or breaking the rules is not something we like to do or we're a little, scared of. And so, talking to her about how she could use cannabis to heal her pain was a big door opener for us. It made it an easy conversation. So I think, being able to utilize sort of the idea of traditional Chinese medicine to explain these other concepts, these new chapters and renaissance that are happening, I think is a great way to do that.
That's
And
a
I
really
think
good
also
point.
even
Sorry,
like
Christina. Go ahead.
even the words to explain and describe cannabis and psychedelics to our parents, to my Chinese speaking parents, have a very difficult time understanding it. And same thing, I think both of you have touched upon, I think Sian, you've touched upon this, right? Where, you're a good girl, you're really into your hobbies, or this idea that we don't want risk. And one of the reasons why Wendy and I really have taken off on this Magu collective is that it's, when we get together, it's all of us have somewhat identified as like, right, that rebel, you're the bad Asian. And we've been cast aside by our families because we're the bad Asians, right? Doing cannabis and all these things, they're bad for you. You're not going to be successful. You're lazy, you're a loser. And when I get together with groups of other Asians in this industry, it's like, oh, we're none of those things. We're really smart. Actually, this is really helpful. And getting together, meeting and having a conversation over food, with cannabis, opening your mind with psilocybin, it just opens up a whole different level of conversation that I've never been able to have with my family, with my parents, and even a level of understanding of intergenerational trauma with my family and parents that I couldn't get. And it wasn't until I started experimenting with all these where it all just sort of, it doesn't solve it. It just really helped. It unfurled it all. And then it made it click. And I was like, oh, I see the puzzle pieces now. I understand it. And so I get to make different choices to try to change how I want to move forward in life, change the script and the way that my parents or my family has been moving, that I have been acting. And I think that's a huge benefit from it. And being able to have these conversations with you, with other women, AAPI women in this space as like aunties, to have these conversations in a way that my parents could never talk. I could never speak to them like this. But also finding the words and finding the language to communicate with them is incredibly difficult.
You hit on a really great point there, both of you, is because we don't look like the people they expect to talk about this. And when you're presented with someone who looks like you and has the same background, all of a sudden it's like, wow, you don't look like the stereotype that we've been sold. And so that you guys are making huge strides in the community. And let's talk a little bit about adaptogenic mushrooms, which Sian, let's talk a little bit about that and how you use them, and maybe a definition of what they are.
Yeah. So adaptogenic mushrooms are typically edible mushrooms that you can incorporate either into your food or you can extract the active constituents in them, the things that heal, the therapeutic components of that particular mushroom into something like a tincture, or you can make it into like a salve or some other kind of medicinal product that you can use to heal. The way I've been using them has been, so I'm at this phase in my life where I'm perimenopausal. I'm 48 years old and I'm losing my mind. No, my memory has gotten really bad. And it was sort of one of those moments where I was like, can I use mushrooms to heal? And I found a lot of mushrooms like lion's mane and chaga and cordyceps and shiitake that have been great, that I can combine with other herbs. So then I'm combining them with ginkgo biloba and gotu kola. And these are the herbs that have been proven to, or clinically proven to, help stimulate brain activity, stimulate, well, for instance, lion's mane doesn't look like a mushroom at all, but it's really beautiful, and it's used a lot in Asian cooking. And there are studies out there that prove that it stimulates neuronal growth factor, which means that you can grow new neurons. All of that scientific background is so important to me to show that there's actual proof, or that there's evidence out there that these things are working. And so for me, that's a really important part, is to find the research that supports that when I use adaptogenic mushrooms.
Christina, how do you incorporate adapted mushrooms into your work? Then also cannabis, like how infusions how do you do it?
So I've been actually taking cordyceps mushrooms I've had a nasty cough and a cold for about a week. And instead of taking decongestants and other pharmaceuticals, I've been taking cordyceps for lung health. I've been doing a lot of eucalyptus. So a lot of these like natural health, they're there. And even as you were talking, Sian, I was thinking about my mom. And, every time I see my mom, she's like, makes me soup. She's like, oh, yum tong, yum tong. And all of the soups always have, here's this one for han cut. That's right, like a cough. You drink this kind of thing. You use longan, you use these different mushrooms. And for me, like I do a lot of mushrooms in like adaptogenic mushrooms in baking, even psychedelic ones. With cannabis, with cannabis specifically, oil is the carrier, oils and fats. So I'll infuse cannabis into oils and fats. I actually just updated a cannabis tea recipe for Thrillist. I'm a contributing cannabis food and drink travel writer for Thrillist. And their cannabis tea recipe is really popular because a lot of times, like, the cannabis edibles on the market are all sugar or chocolate for the most part. And people are looking for something different. They don't want to eat I'm even getting tired of all the sugar. And so having something that's sugar-free, like a cannabis tea, is really attractive. It's good for sleep. It's good for daytime. So there's all different ways. And I'm still learning. I'm very new to this as well. And, there's so many people who've been doing this for so long that I'm a lifelong student. I'm still learning, but I'm taking what I'm learning and applying it into making beautiful modern desserts, so that when you present somebody with an edible, it's not like this weird, yucky looking pot brownie. It's this really beautiful dessert. And it's something that you can show. And it's like, oh, what? Like that's infused. Someone's more willing to try it and, properly dosed, and that's not like, mystery potency, but something that's really beautiful. Doesn't seem as intimidating to try.
I wanted to.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Sian.
I just wanted to also step in and define adaptogens, because some people may not know what an adaptogen is. And so what adaptogens do in your body, whether it's an herb or a mushroom or something else, it'll basically go into your system, and your body has a really good way of knowing what it needs, right? Oftentimes, if we're thirsty, we drink some water. If we are feeling like we need more protein, we may want to eat more meat or something like that. Or other herbs we're attracted to, vegetables we're attracted to, because our body has that need for some kind of a vitamin or a mineral or something that we're missing. And so adaptogens basically bring our body back into balance and essentially do what they're supposed to do. They're really magical in that they really sort of address the insufficiency you might have in your body and sort of help to correct it, bringing it back to balance.
That's amazing, because both of you are at the forefront of all of this. And so let's even go a little more further into the future. And my last question for you guys is, for both of you, Christina, you can start. Where do you see, we now know where cannabis is moving towards for the API community and the acceptance of that. Where do you see the next thing for psychedelics? Let's maybe narrow that down to mushrooms, right? Because that is more relatable for TCM. Where do you see the future of that, of acceptance in our community? And that's a question for both of you. Christina, first.
I think that there's definitely a renaissance and a reinterest right now in mushrooms, all different kinds of mushrooms in every form. And I mean, part of it's a fad, but also I think there's a lot to it. And being able to introduce it in ways and provide the science, which is why I love what Sian is doing, providing that, right? It's like, I know that my mom makes me the soup because it's supposed to be good for this, but I don't know the science behind it. And now we get to learn the science. And for us, we are in I'm about to turn 40. That's a lot. But, I'm starting to look at, right, I'm starting to go to therapy. I'm starting to work through my things. And um, psilocybin, mushrooms, cannabis, all of that, and all the other psychedelics in partnership with as a therapeutic use. I think that's huge because it's part of healing. It's part of all of us healing and trying to find balance and center. And those really, really help. I think we are more stressed out. We are more anxious than ever before. Family pressures, societal pressures, work, life, everything, right? I think like we can all relate to that, where we have, for me as an AAPI woman, there's expectations being placed on that, right? You're supposed to get married, you're supposed to have a job, you're supposed to do this, there's this path we're supposed to take. And yet, for those of us who don't feel that that's right for us, that's really difficult. And so I think mushrooms have a really great path for many of us to start to explore that, to be able to have those conversations. And I've been reading, so Michael Pollan, who's a really wonderful, prolific author, who I admired a lot. So I spent a lot of my career in food and culinary with chefs, and he wrote The Omnivore's Dilemma, which changed the way I think about our food systems. And so the recent books that he's been writing is How to Change Your Mind with Plants, and it's how to change your mind and your mind on plants. And it's all about exploring psychedelics. And it's been so fascinating because the research that had been done on all of this just stopped. And so we don't have information, and it's just starting again now. So as more research comes up, I think that there's really going to be a place in the API community as we become more comfortable putting this in tandem with therapy. I mean, even going to therapy is already really hard. Seeing a therapist in AAPI culture is very taboo. So once we can kind of push past that and use those two in tandem together, I think the amount of healing that we can do is incredible. And that's where I
You
see
touched on
it.
a good point there, because minorities in general are very traumatized, because how we got here, what we went through, and all that trauma is inherited. So hopefully, with the advent of the use of psilocybin, we can help our community. So, Sian, where do you see the future of psychedelics?
So I think Oregon being the first state to sort of really embrace psychedelics, I think is going to be a model, much in the way that California has been kind of a model for, good or bad, has been a model for cannabis. Obviously, the first step is whether you use it with a clinical psychologist or some kind of a medical professional. That's probably going to be the first step, I would say, for most states as they adopt it and decriminalize. And obviously in California, there's several cities that are starting to explore that, and some have already. But I think, it's interesting from an AAPI point of view. It's now, we all have gone through a lot of trauma as children, being so conspicuously different, looking, not only just the way we look, but also our cultures, our food, the foods that we eat. And, we all sort of had some bullying, and maybe we were made fun of based on those things. And I think a lot of us had to deny that part of ourselves growing up out of survival, and now as adults, being able to come back and embrace that heritage, embrace that culture, and see the value of the historical use of plants and mushrooms in particular has been really profound for me. And so that's why one of the reasons why I want to get into it, because I see such a benefit to society and the healing that has happened, through organizations like MAPS, for instance, and all the good work that they're doing. And how can I be a face of my community to be able to showcase that, this is happening this can be used in our community, and we can be good stewards of that. And how can I help to encourage healing of generational trauma through the use of plants and psychedelics?
I love all of that, because right now we're all being inundated with images of ravey looking chocolates or things like that. And for me, the issue is that is not, it is medicine. And right now, the short term, like you mentioned, short term, people are seeing it as more as an industry that they can get into and not really looking at the benefits. So that I set aside. But the work that both of you doing are is for the community, is for better health and better mental health. And I'm so proud of both of you for what you're doing and putting yourselves out there to help others and speak about it. It is such an honor to have both of you here on the Bluntness for Potluck podcast. Now I want to give our listeners and viewers maybe where can we find you? But also too, I want to make a quick note. You can find Sian on the Double Blind for the articles that she writes there as well. So I'm so proud of her for that. I mean, like, I was like, yo. So, Christina, where can we find you? And also, how can we subscribe to Fruit and Flower?
Absolutely. So the best way to find me, I'm on Instagram at fruit and flower, all one word, no spaces, no dots. And then my website is fruitandflower.co. I have a Substack newsletter that is linked from my website and on my Instagram called Fruit and Flower Unfurled. And you can subscribe. And there's free dispatches about just kind of personal essays, things I'm going through. The one in the Cannabis Drink Guide, I wrote what my experience is like when I drink and get Asian glow and blackout and barf. So that's a fun one. I also explained one of my accidental heavy psilocybin trips and my big realization through my parents. My mom also subscribed, so this is interesting. But I'm on Substack, I'm on Twitter, TikTok, all of the things. But Instagram and my website, fruitandflower.co, is the best place to find me.
And on Thrillist.
Yep.
As well. And also there's many articles written about her, so you can follow that as well. And quickly, what are the name of all your chickens?
There's Dude, there's Butterberry, Fizzleberry, Lady Olga Berry, Leela Berry, and Snozberry, and Burrito Berry.
Is Dude your rooster, right?
Dude is the rooster. Yes, he's very fabulous, very handsome, and very useless.
Which is the one that gives you the most trouble?
Dude. The man.
Oh, Dude.
The hens are easy.
I love that. I love all the berry names too. It's like hilarious. It's like basically you almost made up all these new strains for weed. Right?
Like, one day, maybe I'll have my own product line of cannabis and they'll be named after all the chickens.
Oh my God, that'd be hilarious. I love that because I would buy it. Oh my gosh. So, Sian, where can we find you besides Double Blind?
Yes, you can find me on Double Blind. Thanks for that. And you can also find me on Instagram at Sian Seligman. So just my first name, last name, no space. And also you can find out what we're doing at Koan by finding us on Instagram also at koan.life. That's also our URL, koan.life, KOAN. And, I'm also around. I'm at every Ophelia potluck event there is. So
we all are. We're such huge fans. Thank you, Ophelia,
Yes.
for creating this community, bringing AAPI together, for doing this podcast. It's been so illuminating. And everywhere I travel, when I talk to people about potluck, they're like, oh, I wish that was here. I wish I had that. I wish I had a community of women, of people, of tiger aunties to help guide me. And so we're growing bigger and better. Thank you.
Tiger Grandma. And the next potluck is January 26th at iSpire, which is two lovely women will be at. And we're planning them for Vegas as well and New York. So, but also thank you to my community of beautiful young cannabis women for kicking me in the ass to start the potlucks. Because before that I was like, I'm so tired. I'm so busy. But then these guys said, Ophelia, you're Asian. And I thought, oh yeah. So
is that what it is? Is that why I'm so tired and I can't stop? I thought that was just a me thing. And
no. It's the Asian thing. God damn it. It's okay, even on vacation, all our girlfriends are also working in typing because you're supposed to be on vacation. You're getting a text can you connect me to blah, blah, blah. I said, what the hell? You're supposed to be on vacation.
I like to tell me, she would say, work hard now, so then it'll be easy street later. And I'm like, when is the easy street, Mom? So it's created this, like, I can't stop. I have to keep going.
You'd be bored if you did stop.
My whole thing is I'm like Denny's. I'm always open.
I'm trying, honestly, I'm trying really hard to not do that. Jokes aside, it's, we are really hardworking. We are really industrious. I'm able to build my company, do what I do because of that. But also, like, it's a lot. And I think we have to remind ourselves to take a step back, to take a day off, to relax. And, it's for me, and I watch my parents, and I think there's a lot of that guilt too, right? Like, they worked so hard. They came here with nothing, and they went to college, and they built this, and they gave me this great life. I need to work really hard and do this too. But also, like, we have to remember that we also deserve rest. We also deserve to take time off. We deserve to take time for ourselves and do self-care and wellness.
And remember our physical aspect of it too, because that's important. Our bodies are just as important as everything else. So keeping, physical and active and things like that is important as well. Balance.
Well, and for my example, these two beautiful women who practice what they preach, and their glowing faces and their happy voices and just their aura is an example of how they live, but how they preach too. So I'm so honored to have both of you here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your lunch hour, because I know you work through your lunch too. And so, and I do hope for is it Snozzleberry? Snozzberry strain to come out soon, so I can buy it with a picture of the chicken on there.
Oh my God, this is so funny.
Oh my God, we have to do that. We have to make it up and just put the pictures of the chickens on jars and just go run from there. I love that idea. And I think it's actually genius. Maybe we can do it. So, but thank you both. I love you both. And then on the podcast, we will also put your links on there too, so that if people didn't write down fast enough, if they weren't Asian and actually was doing this, then don't worry, the links will be on the podcast page as well. Thank you so much. I love you all.